All right, let's go ahead and build this from scratch. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. The first thing we'll do is create my basic skeleton. So I'm in a file called marathonform.html. There we go. Thank you to VS Code. And then in here, we'll just do, register form. Great. And then I'm going to create an H1 up top that just says race registration. And then I'll open it up in the browser and just make sure I have it. By the way, I'm way zoomed in here because, it looks a little scrawny to have all this empty white space. So I figure might as well make it as large as possible for students to see. Okay, so there we go, our H1. Then we need our form element. And recall that this action is going to determine where the form submits data to, but we don't care about it for now. It will be very important when we're submitting data somewhere, but we're not doing that. So I'll just leave it blank for now. Then we're going to add in our first set of elements. We're going to work on the first name and last name. Those are both just text inputs. So let's do our first input. Type is text, and then I'll also do a label, and this one will say first name. And I'll call this first. The for attribute will be first, which means I need an ID with the matching text of first, and they should now be connected. Click, and then we're focused. All right, I didn't specify that you needed to add placeholder text, but you can if you'd like. Always a good idea, but it should never take the place of a label. Labels are accessible, placeholders are not, or at least they're not as accessible. Okay, so I'm also going to give each input a name, which again is not going to make an impact for us, but it is good to have when we do submit data. This will be the name used to submit that data under. Now I'm just going to duplicate this and do the same thing for last name. So our ID will be last, and then this will say last name. Easy enough. There we go. Click here. Okay, so that part is done. Next up, we have this chunk. So these are 3 radio buttons. We can start there. If you recall how radio buttons work, it's just an input where type is radio. And if I use Emmet in VS Code, right, I can just type input, I'll do it one more time, colon, radio, or colon color, or whatever that value after colon is will be used for the type. So I want radio. And then each one of these needs a label. So I'm going to make a label for now for this one radio button that's going to say, what did I do, fun run 5K. I think I put the label after the radio button. So if we're going to be consistent, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that as long as I connect them. So this one will be 5K. Now I'm spelling 5K out, or maybe I'll do fun run. You're not supposed to have an ID that starts with a number, so I'm not going to do that. We'll do fun run. And yes, this isn't an ID, but here it is, right? ID fun run. And then fun run 5K, let's make sure they're connected. If I click, we do select it. Great. And then the name here is the value that will be sent, the name of the value. We'll call it race. And we need that name to be the same for all 3 of our radio buttons if we want them to be connected, if we want the browser to consider them as part of the same piece of data, right? You can only pick one out of these 3. So keep that as race. This one, though, will be half as the ID, half marathon, and then this one will just be full marathon. Okay, let's see how that looks. Label, not quite. So I screwed up that label. Oh, duh, I didn't change this to full. Okay, so half and half, full and full, fun run, fun run. Now I click and it works. Click here, click there, and I can only have one of the 3 selected. Now, I did break this up into multiple lines. So what I did is I put a div around these 2 first, just to group them together anyway. You could also use, I debated using a section, but I didn't know. I didn't think it was the best use of a section, just a section of a form. You could do that. And then I did a paragraph here that said select a race. like that. And then I just did a div around each pair to force them onto their own line, right? So we end up with this for that first one, and then just duplicate that again for the second pair, and then again for the third pair. Now this really is not important compared to the labels and the inputs. That's what matters. But there we are. Well, this is Colt from the future. A couple, 2 months after I originally recorded this video and uploaded it, the course has been live. And multiple people pointed out an issue that I am here to fix, or at least address. So far, in our form, this is the completed version, by the way, so it's not going to match up exactly with where I interrupted this video, but what I want to call your attention to are the radio buttons. In my code, in the radio buttons, each one has type, attribute set to radio, a name set to something, an ID set to something to work with the label, but they're missing a very important attribute, which is the value attribute. Recall that the value attribute on a radio button is the actual value assigned to each option. So what piece of information will be sent if I select half marathon as an example? Well, if I submit this form, and remember, we're not really sending it anywhere, but we can see, I don't know if that's going to show up. Let me just copy this over here so you can see it a little bit clearer. We have first name, Jones, race, right here, race equals on. So the actual information that was sent for this entire set of radio buttons, which is grouped with the name attribute of race, right? Here we go, race, name is race, name is race. All that we got was race equals on. So not very helpful. What we want to do is send through a specific value for each one of these options. So I'm going to add a value attribute. So it's not going to alter anything that we see on the form, but once we actually work with form data and send data somewhere, we absolutely want those values. And also, just to be complete, we want to have a value there. So value here, I'll just do the same as the ID. So fun run, and then value here will be half, and then full. So again, won't make a difference to what we see, but I'm going to save, and then I'll refresh. Okay. So let's see what happens. I have half marathon selected. I'll click register. Let's copy what we have up top. I'll blow it up down here. And where are you? Got to scroll through all of that lovely stuff. Here we are. Race equals half. So now that value that I checked this one. It says half marathon to me, my eyes as a reader, but really what we're sending through is just the word half. That's the value associated with this input. Anyway, I apologize for the interruption, but I thought I should address that, and it's kind of hard to just put all of that in a text annotation or as a note, so that's why I interrupted you. Now we're going to go back to building the rest of the form, and you'll see in the rest of the video I don't have those value attributes there, but the solution code has the value attributes, as well as this interruption has those attributes. So put those in there, and that's it. Back to the version of me from 2 months ago recording this video. Bye. Next up, we've got two more inputs, an email and a password input. So I'm going to do another div, and then input type is email. Nope, I hit enter too early. There we are. Name will be email. ID will also be email. And then the label will just be for email to match that ID. And then here we'll type email. And let's see, there it is. Let's also do password. So label for password, we can just preemptively come up with that ID, password, and then input type is password. Name will be password, and ID will be password. They should be connected. Click on the label. Yep. Click on the label here. Looks good. This is a password input. Great. And then what do we have at the end? We've got the button and then select age group. So that will be a label for this select. And then our select will have a couple of options. So we'll do another div. We'll put a select in there. We'll call this maybe division, group, age group, something like that. Make sure it matches division as well. Select age group. And then we need a series of option elements, and each option needs a value. and it needs some text. So let's go with under 18. We'll call that kids. Duplicate that a couple of times. 18 to, I don't know, 40. Call that adults. No, let's not do that. Let's do 18 to 35 or something. 30. That will be, sure, young adults. And then 30 to 50. Maybe 30 to 60. I don't know. These aren't very fair age rankings or age groupings. In a real marathon situation, they're far smaller groups. 30 to 50, that's quite the span. Anyway, this is fine though. We'll just go with adults and then seniors for 50 plus. It's just not really senior, but good enough. All right, so there we are. A couple of options there. And then finally, we need a button to submit. Button, we'll go with register. Okay, so there's a couple things, at least one that I'm missing, which is that these are supposed to be required inputs, and right now I can leave them off. That's totally fine. So I need to require these 4 inputs here, and that's easy to do. I just need to find them. I'm just going to make multiple cursors by holding Option as I click, and do it again here for email and password. And then I'll just add required, just like that. Save, refresh, and now it's going to bug me about putting something in there and there. And then here, if I left it off, first it would say required. Now it's going to complain that it's not a valid email, or at least that it doesn't follow an email pattern. And then password needs to be filled out as well. Okay. And there we go. It submits all that horrible data and just refreshes the page because I didn't specify a different action. I just said nothing, just refresh the page. That's where you're sending the data to. But that's all that matters for now, just setting up our form. It's a lot of work, but it's something we do frequently. We'll get a lot of practice. Definitely want to make it very clear that labels should always be there. They're important, even if they seem silly, even if it's annoying to connect them. For accessibility purposes, always include labels. So that's our form. Time to go run a marathon.